I'm about to admit a horror movie fan sin. I've been indifferent to the Halloween franchise. Haven't ever really been that interested, but I know other people are. And this one was requested, so this one's for you. Thank you to the person who requested this. If you would like to request anything, just let me know in the comments. I realized through this process that I haven't watched any of the Halloween movies in their entirety. Yeah, I know. Go ahead and yell at me. I can take it. Today we're going to do a little psychoanalysis of Laurie and Michael. First, I just want you to know that there are multiple timelines in the Halloween franchise, and I'm just looking at 2 movies. The 2 movies I'm looking at are the original 1978 and the Rob Zombie reboot 2007. The overall premise for the story is this kid, Michael, kills his older sister Judith on Halloween, and there's some other people that get killed too. And as a result of this, he spends the next 15 years of his life in an institution. While he's in this institution, Dr. Loomis is trying to figure out how to help him and understand him. Dr. Loomis worked with him, had a decent rapport built with him, but Michael eventually breaks out and decides to head back home for whatever reason. He just starts hunting people down. Our final girl is Laurie Strode. Dr. Loomis and some local law enforcement start looking for him, trying to figure out where is he headed, who is he headed back to. It's a spoiler just in case you are worse than me and don't even know the premise of the story. Laurie, the main girl, is the sister of Michael Myers. I learned that this isn't something that's revealed until Halloween 2 in the original timeline. 2007 reboot, it's kind of laid out there. First, I watched the 2007 reboot because it was easier to find. I watched it real recently, a couple weeks ago. And yeah, I have this problem with putting things off for a really long period of time. I don't have an excuse. I just do that. So, odd side note, when this movie came out, I had a friend who saw it in theaters and was beside himself about this movie. He thought it was the best movie that ever existed, primarily because of the origin story that's included. This specific guy was also convinced that he had a disease that made him a vampire, so maybe not the most credible source, or maybe the most credible source. I have to say, in reference to Laurie and her lack of knowledge about her origins, that's a really stupid thing to do to a kid. Don't lie to your kids about their families. Don't lie to your kids about who their parents are. That fucks people up emotionally. Trust me. Remember, therapist. And if you do it nowadays, it's you're just asking for chaos because you can just send your spit into a company and figure out who your relatives are. So they're gonna find out. And even if for some reason they don't magically, that's messed up, and I'm going to judge you if you lie to your children about adoption or who their biological parents really are. For fuck's sake, they could end up being stalked by their estranged sibling and have no idea what's going on. Case in point. So scene for scene, these 2 movies are different, but the Rob Zombie reboot does give more of an origin story, as noted before. We find out that Michael, he's been abused verbally and emotionally by mom's boyfriend, stepdad, whatever this dude is. He's terrible. His mom is an exotic dancer, so that causes him some stress, especially when another child finds an advertisement that includes her in it and decides to pick on him as a result of it. He ends up killing this kid. And we find out later that he's also been killing animals, which is a huge warning sign. None of this stuff that points to a big problem is included in the 1978. The 1978 version was leaving it to just the unknown more so. I can understand the merit in both of those presentations to the stories. So in the 2007 reboot, there's a baby. It's very clearly there. It's known to be his little sister, Laurie, and he has a connection of some kind with her. And when he breaks out of the institution and goes to his original home, it's kind of he wants to put his family back together in some really twisted way. Laurie goes through a lot of trauma. If we think about just before this whole ordeal. Even though she was an infant when everything happened with Michael, that doesn't mean that she's necessarily immune to the stress of the circumstances. I'm sure she doesn't remember it in her conscious mind, but as is demonstrated in the reboot, his mother was profoundly affected by it and ended up taking her own life, which absolutely impacted Laurie. She ended up being adopted because of it. A parent that's struggling that much emotionally may be unintentionally neglectful, and regardless of their level of comprehension, kids know when something is going on. They can identify when we're stressed, and they then also take on that stress response oftentimes. That in and of itself can activate your sympathetic nervous system and make you think that you are in danger. Again, none of this in the 1978 version. So if I was Laurie's therapist after this whole ordeal, I would want her in intensive trauma therapy to manage acute stress that happens when bad stuff like this happens. When your estranged sibling tries to kill you. She'll probably need a lot of support surrounding her origins as well once that kind of comes out. Not dealing with trauma of this magnitude can absolutely lead to full-blown PTSD. PTSD includes symptoms of hypervigilance, poor emotional regulation, nightmares, intense emotional reactions to reminders of the trauma, and possible flashbacks and several other things. So talking about Michael. In the original, I discovered that, spoiler, his behavior, his actions and choices are actually attributed to a curse in the future sequels of the original timeline. In 2007, it's clear that Michael's had some trauma, and it seems like he's got a case of conduct disorder. For those who don't know, here's my video on psychopaths in horror, just in case you want a little deeper dive. But conduct disorder is a precursor to a very serious personality disorder known as antisocial personality disorder, aka psychopath. Extreme childhood trauma is often a variable in the development of this disorder. Michael here could be struggling with a known issue, which is known as institutionalization. So that's when you grow up or in an environment for a long period of time that is extremely structured, such as a jail or some other type of facility, that sometimes people are unable to appropriately readjust to life outside of the facility. And he very clearly did not adjust well. So Michael probably has ASPD or antisocial personality disorder, but I wouldn't doubt if there's some other stuff going on. But it's just not entirely clear beyond possible PTSD and ASPD at this moment. After this whole process, I still feel about the same about the Halloween franchise. Maybe one day I'll explore the others. I will say that if I'd been born much earlier and had seen the 1978 version in theaters, I may have a different feeling about it. So I get it if you did. I respect it and I have appreciation for what this franchise has brought to horror. My brain wasn't into the suspense atmosphere that they were trying to cultivate. It just wasn't working for me, but I sat through it for you. Let me know what else you would like to see. Let me know what you think about this. Like, subscribe. See you again soon.